to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. So the prayer today will be offered by the wonderful lady from Baltimore County. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Please assume your preferred posture for prayer. All hearts and minds clear. God, I thank you for this ministry of public service, for another day to wake up and make a difference. The people elected us, appointed us, but you chose us for such a time as this. And I believe there's an assignment attached to each and every representative in this house. Guide us, O God. Help us. Order our steps to fulfill your purpose in this earth, in this state, and in our communities. God, bless our staff and the tireless teams who stand beside us every day to take care of our constituents and us. They make sure we're encouraged and supported. God, nurture, inspire, and open doors for them as they do this important work and pursue their personal passions. I pray for the people back home in our district who are counting on us, rooting for us, trusting us. Give them hope and comfort in knowing that they have leadership in a state. They live in a state with leadership that cares about them. Lord, wrap your arms around the most vulnerable among us, our children, our seniors, the disabled, the disenfranchised, the laid off, and the left out. Give us real solutions that will meet their needs and elevate their life. Enlighten us with new and creative ideas. Connect them with us, our office, and our resources. Thank you, God, for giving us a heart to serve. Now give us ears to hear and eyes to see. Let us find opportunities to work together, to negotiate, so that everyone here has a voice. Help us to see waste disguised as necessity. Deliver us from personal interests masked as solutions. Keep us honest and accountable. Free us from ego or malice or jealousy or bias or greed or grudges or any other thing that is not of you. And at the end of the day, when we have done all we can, God, help us to stand. May the peace of God abide in this chamber and all across this complex. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Anyone in the back? Protocol chair. Welcome. The clerk will call the roll. There being 128 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, February 27th, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
So much be
welcome.
considered the reading of the journal.
So order petitions, memorials, and other papers. So colleagues, we have one resolution. I'm going to be recognizing the delegate from Frederick County. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Do I have permission to use delegates' names?
Permission granted.
Thank you. So on behalf of the District 4 team and the Frederick County delegation, Delegates Pippi, Siliberti, and myself, Delegate Miller, would like to welcome Frederick County's Brunswick High School's first Tech Challenge team, 11525, Minerva's Mechanics. They recently competed in the FTC Regional Championships against the top teams from Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Our team went undefeated, earned first place overall, and qualified for the first World Championship to be held in Houston, Texas in late April, where they will compete against the top teams worldwide. They are currently ranked... They are currently ranked 32nd in the world out of more than 8,000 teams globally, an extraordinary achievement for our students and our community. So please join me in welcoming to the floor the team captain, Lucas Arrett, Ms. Addison Wells, Addison Willis, and Casey Day, the team coach, as well as the rest of the team here today. Congratulations. We are very proud of you and all your accomplishments and wish you the best of luck at the World Championships.
Would the clerk please read the full resolution?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Minerva's Mechanics in recognition of the Brunswick High School's First Tech Challenge team going undefeated and winning first place at the FTC Regional Championships. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 12th day of March 2026.
Congratulations again. Go ahead. Okay. All right, colleagues, we have a lot on the calendar, so let's try to listen, and I want to thank you for the work you have been doing so far. 33 more days, and yes, I'm counting in a good way. This is the report of the Committee on Ways and Means, report number 9. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 355, Education, Sexual Abuse and Assault Awareness and Prevention Program, Human and Sex Trafficking, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 534, Non-Public Schools, Transcripts Prohibition on Punitive Measures Related to Student Debt, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Good morning.
welcome.
I have an amendment at the desk. It's amendment number 243726/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So
Madam
order.
Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 534 deals with non-public schools
Let's listen.
and transcripts. And this particular amendment is very straightforward. It says that if you have a school system or a school, an individual school that has 1-star rating, and it has a 1-star rating for 3 years in a row, then the money will follow the student, and the student can go to a private school or a school of their choice. The amendment also states that if a school system identifies a habitually violent or disruptive student, the school system can notify the parents of that student that there's an opportunity for the child to have the money follow the child to a military boarding school. That's what the actual amendment does, Madam Speaker. And so some might ask, well, why is this necessary? Well, in the state of Maryland, we have a star rating system for the public school system. If you have a 1-star rating system, then your school is the school that is in great trouble with children who clearly aren't learning. And we know this because the statistics demonstrate this very fact. As an example, in the city of Baltimore, we have 1-star rated schools, and we have them in other jurisdictions too, to be fair, Madam Speaker. And I know that my good friends in Baltimore are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the delegate from Calvert County is talking about this. Why would he? Well, it's very simple. The citizens of Calvert County pay a fortune in taxes to the state, and they get very little back, and much of it is redistributed to the city of Baltimore. So we actually have a say in how this money, and should have a say in how this money is spent and whether or not it's working. Clearly, if tuition dollars are going to schools that are one-star schools where no one is learning year in and year out, after 3 years, this amendment would basically say the money then follows the student. In Baltimore City, that's about $23,000 per student. How many people in Baltimore City would avail themselves of this program knowing that their child isn't learning? Particularly if the school system is required, as this amendment requires the school system to do, to notify the parents that it is a one-star failed school. Remember, not just 1 year, but 3 years in a row. And we still have one-star failed schools, Madam Speaker, even after years of implementation of the blueprint, which is spending billions and billions of dollars, and with very, very little result in some schools, which means there's some other problem going on. In Maryland's Constitution, Article 8, Section 1, under Education, it says the General Assembly shall by law establish throughout the state a thorough and efficient system of free public schools, and shall provide by taxation or otherwise for their maintenance. But what if the public schools in many areas aren't working? And they are not in certain areas. And who are the individuals that are stuck in these failed schools? Well, it's generational at this point. Generation after generation of student is finding themselves in a situation where they're simply not learning. In Baltimore City, as an example, 84% of 8th graders are illiterate. This is a fact. We can shake our heads as we must, but 84% of 8th graders in Baltimore City, when tested, are illiterate after years of spending billions of dollars. It didn't used to be this way. I grew up there. I went to a not very great school, to be honest with you, a public school. And there were low expectations for many of the people in that school, by the administrators and the teachers, for people like me and my brothers and my younger sister. But what made the difference, obviously, is parents and fighting and advocating for your family. But not everybody has this opportunity. And when you're stuck in a one-star school, every child should have an opportunity at the best education. And if your child is illiterate when they graduate, well then, what's possible for them in the future? Nothing, really. Not an economy that's getting more and more technical. And then there's another part of the school choice amendment that I'm offering today, and that is the violent students and the habitual disruptive students that are in the classroom that the teachers themselves identify. The teachers identify these students, and we all know, if you talk to the administration, they always know who the kids are. And those children would benefit greatly by having an opportunity to go to a military boarding school if that was determined to be appropriate, and the money would follow that student. And so some might say, well, military boarding school? Well, you know, Governor Moore wrote in his autobiography, The Other Wes Moore, that when he got into trouble, his mother pulled him out of school and put him into a military boarding school in Pennsylvania. And he credits that one action with saving his life. And so I don't understand how this body can, year after year, hear this bill in Ways and Means and spend the kind of money that we're spending on public education and put up with kids, 84% of whom are illiterate in 8th grade. It's obviously not a money issue. There's another issue going on, and it's an environmental issue. And pulling children out of that environment and putting them into an environment that actually, where children are learning, will make all the difference in the world. It's just common sense, and everybody knows it. This issue, Madam Speaker, polls overwhelmingly in the state of Maryland. Democrats, Republicans, Independents support this issue overwhelmingly. In the book written by Chris Pabst, Failure Factory, which documents the actual issues in the Baltimore City public school system, the systemic issues, one Baltimore City school nurse said that the violent kids and the out-of-control kids are so bad, it feels like we are in Afghanistan. That's how we feel. We feel like we are at war. Another passage, teachers have no authority at all anymore in the school. I get cussed out 10, 15, 20 times a day by students I don't even know. Baltimore City teacher. Another passage, in one school year, there were 3,374 instances of violence. Of those cases, only 202 were referred to law enforcement, and only 18 resulted in an arrest. And so what I'm suggesting here is, rather than criminalizing the violence and keeping the kids in the school and pushing them through the system, why not give them an opportunity to go to private school, including a military boarding school? It just makes sense. This amendment has always made sense, and I'm sure I'm going to hear from the Ways and Means Committee saying, well, we have a bill just like this in Ways and Means. You had a bill just like this in Ways and Means last year. You had a bill like this in Ways and Means the year before. You had a bill like this in Ways and Means the year before that, and before that, and before that. And after billions of dollars that you've spent, we still have one-star schools where children aren't learning. I know it's an uncomfortable issue for you because too often the teachers union has this grip on this body that people are afraid to break. And that grip is the grip of a monopoly. And monopolies don't work. Just like they don't work in utilities, which was also created by this body, education monopolies don't work for the students. So, Madam Speaker, I want the money to follow the children and those children that are stuck in one-star schools. These are the least among us, and they need help, and they're crying for help, and their parents are crying for help, and it's generation after generation that's crying for help. Thank you, Madam Speaker. There are other people that want to speak on this, so I'd appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
I'd like the floor leader.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, sorry.
No, not at all. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the gentleman for bringing the amendment. I thank the gentleman for sharing the amendment with me before session today. I also thank the gentleman for challenging my mathematical skills and subtracting 1 from years over and over and over again. I don't know where I go back to on that, but thank you. What I really want to thank the gentleman for is his interest in students in the state of Maryland and his concern for them. I believe it's genuine, and I like that. And I like that he's presented us with, unfortunately, what is really just a bill that exists in Ways and Means at this time. Okay? This amendment really just is House Bill 1039. You could look at it and see that they're nearly identical or identical. I couldn't go word for word when I checked, having only received it at the beginning of session. The key is really this amendment doesn't speak to the content of the bill at all. Okay? This amendment is about failing schools and school choice and a number of things, and some things in there I can see, but a lot of things I would disagree, and I'd love to sit down with the gentleman and discuss those sometime, but not here. What we're going to do here is we're going to stick to the bill, which is about access to transcripts for students who are having financial troubles with the school they've left. And so we're going to stick to the bill, so I'm going to request that the body resist the amendment. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was interesting yesterday in my newly formed Glee Club. We do have some very fascinating material that to me it's actually, it brings a lot more enthusiasm when you're learning something new. And the floor leader yesterday had a bill in our committee, and to be honest with you, it was an outstanding conversations from both sides. And the point I was trying to make, they had a high school student up there, and I wanted to ask him first because he's the one with the real world experience. And I asked him, you know, you say a lot of your friends, they're not even able to make it to school for either transportation, or I said, let me ask you something. I said, do you know any of your friends that are forced into a gang, forced into a life that is certainly going to end in an early death? This is what they're facing. I know a lot of people in this body, when we stand up and we support bills like this, you think we're impugning the teachers. And I told every teacher in there yesterday, I know it's not your fault. You can't tell me a teacher in Baltimore City is any worse than Anne Arundel County. You can't tell me a student born in Baltimore City is any less intelligent than a kid born in St. Mary's or Anne Arundel. Biologically, it's impossible. So what is the common denominator? Is it money? No. They didn't even believe me when I gave them the stat yesterday. We have 875,000 students in public schools in Baltimore City. 63,000 teachers. That's 14 to 1. I said, do any of you have a 14 to 1 classroom? No. They came and they were complaining about the conditions of their school. My wife works in Prince George's County. I showed her a picture the night before. Her and I went and picked a cabinet up so she could take it to one of her schools. I know. Where's the money going? I don't know. Because it gets lost in this huge brick bureaucracy. And that's sad. We are failing these kids. It is horrible that we have this many kids coming out of school systems that can't read or write. And in that book, there's a teacher that said, I see them giving degrees out to people that have no idea, kids that can't read or write. But if they had the choice, if they had the opportunity, if they had the freedom to take that money, that kid that's getting the crap beat out of him on the streets trying to get to school, how long do you think that's going to take before he quits school? Give that kid the opportunity. That kid that wants to learn, that wants to move up the economic ladder, that kid that knows that education gets him out of the squalor he's in. And what do we tell them? No, you got to stay because the teachers union doesn't want you out of here. That's horrible. That is a failure of epic proportions. Every kid that doesn't get a proper education should be on us. And we should take it seriously. Each kid, $16,000 is what it says. I looked at it yesterday. Every public school student is going to be like $19,000. I'm not saying they have to go to private school. I'm not saying they have to go to some Catholic school or a Jewish school. I'm saying let the money go with them, empower that kid and that kid's parents so they can make a decision that is right from them. We are all very unique. Some kids thrive towards math. Some kids thrive towards science. Some kids thrive towards... There's a school that will help that kid flourish those talents and those abilities. Rather than forcing this kid into a school that has good teachers, but he can't make it there. Give him the money back. Let him find a school that will help him so we don't have generational poverty. We have a generational poverty problem here in the state of Maryland, and the only way out is to start to empower the kid and his parents or the family or the caregiver so that they can make a choice that helps them get out of the squalor. Thank you, Madam.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Roll call.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote.
1 second, please. Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County, then the lady from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, this is your chance to bring real change to public education. I'm a former educator. My kids went to Baltimore City schools. I taught in Baltimore City schools. You said Blueprint would help. It's been a disaster. Just read Failure Factory. Just look at the data. One student failed physics and the foreign languages senior year, both required classes, yet he graduated. Another student missed 100 days of school. They graduated. This is not helping kids. Giving them a diploma when they cannot read and write is malpractice. We have to change it, and this is where we start. Give parents the freedom. give their kids the opportunity to succeed in this state.
Recognizing the lady from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
Body, I'm really curious to know how many of us actually attended one-star public schools. We heard from the good gentleman from Calvert that he did, and I'm really curious to know how many folks that made it this far in their life, that attained this much success, did so with a one-star public school education. So maybe you'll find me offline and let me know if that was you. I'd like to know. We also all got copies of Failure Factory. I'm sure some of you just tossed it in a pile and didn't read it, but I read it. I read it and I watched my heart rate go up. It was really disturbing. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things that I read in Failure Factory. Quote, "The Baltimore City Public School is the most racist institution in the city of Baltimore. It's killing the lives of thousands of black kids, poor kids, across the board, black, white, and brown," end quote. That was Carl Stokes, the former Baltimore City Council member. Another quote, "In the thousands of emails that Project Baltimore received from their lawsuit, they found cases of failing grades being rounded up to passing, students being promoted without showing up to class, and teachers feeling the pressure to change grades," end quote. Quote, "Massive amounts of money are going into the pockets of administrators instead of going into the classrooms," end quote. That is what we're propping up. This amendment, Madam Speaker, this amendment gives kids trapped in these very schools the opportunities to become people like us that sit on the floor just like the rest of us.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I
You're
rise to explain my vote. I want to thank the sponsor of this amendment for putting this in, because this is a conversation we should have. This is a big conversation and difference in philosophy for our education system. Instead of going down this centralized government path that Maryland's on, that has high funding, instead of a more educational freedom model that you'll find in other states like, I don't know, say Florida. And what really gets me is when you start comparing our dollars versus other states. You look at Baltimore City has had a 38% increase in funding since 2017, yet their graduation rate has only moved 1%. The dropout rate in Baltimore City is now at a 15-year high. And SAT scores in Baltimore City fell to 856 in 2025, the lowest on record. Now, what's concerning about me, because I don't represent Baltimore City, that because of the implementation of the blueprint, statewide scores are down 60 points since 2017. Now, I know some of my colleagues in here would blame the pandemic, even though we're 5 years from that. But I also find it's ironic that 2017, well, in 2016, you changed the behavior guidelines. And getting disrupted students out of the classroom has been a problem ever since. And this really flexes muscles when you compare someplace like Baltimore City next to Miami, Florida. The cost per student is $23,000 a year in Baltimore City, and in Miami it's $13,000 a year, yet they outperform students handily in reading and math. We need to get some return on investments.
The gentleman's time is up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Briefly, to explain my green vote, I want to tell a story briefly. When I first ran for office in 2013, I sat down with a group of friends in a restaurant called Sticky Rice. It's not there anymore, but I'll always remember the story of a young teacher who told me about the problems she faced in the school system. And I always remember this. She said, "The worst thing is that I have ninth graders who don't know their letters or numbers, and we keep moving these kids through the system." And I said, "How does that work?" And she said, "Well, they tell us just to fix their grades so we don't hold them back." And I find that incredible that 13 years later, we still suffer this problem. This has been discussed widely, and I'd like to give a couple quotes. The kids aren't learning. They should evaluate the schools and decide if the school's not working, then they must close that school. Put those young people in schools that are working. That's from Carl Stokes, former Baltimore City Council member. So I appreciate that we have a bill in Ways and Means. As the sponsor of the amendment has said, we have that bill year after year after year, but 13 years later, we suffer from the same problems that we had back in 2013. And I'm shocked that in 2026, we're still moving kids through the system, ninth graders that don't know their letters or numbers. So I think this is the civil rights issue of our time. I think it's time we stood up for these students, and that's why I'm green today.
Recognizing the other gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, we've had a lot of discussion about Baltimore City Public Schools. I'm not going to talk about that. I don't represent that jurisdiction. I do represent Baltimore County, though. And I want to point out that this is not just an issue in one area of the state. In Baltimore County right now, there are 33 1- or 2-star schools, many of which are actually around my district or in my district. So this is a statewide issue. This is a problem that we should be addressing, not just for Baltimore City, but for Baltimore County and any other school system that has these kinds of issues going on. You know, I'm a Baltimore County public school parent, and I got to tell you, some of the numbers that are coming out of our school system are particularly concerning. You know, if you look at the proficiency scores in Baltimore County last year, only 19.3% of students were proficient in math. Only 41.9% of students were proficient in English. These are troubling numbers. I think we all are concerned, and I think we rightfully should be concerned about this. I think that now is the time to correct this issue, not only for Baltimore City and Baltimore County, but any other part of the state where students are trapped inside of an education system that potentially will lead them down a pathway that is very difficult in life. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Welcome. Recognizing the Vice Chair of ENT.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, to explain my vote on
Yes.
this amendment. I always like the opportunity to educate my colleagues on what a non-public school is. First of all, this bill refers to non-public schools, which are not private schools. They are the schools that we send our most vulnerable children to, and the state generally pays for. These are kids with disabilities that do not get the services that they need in our regular public school system. What this bill does, in my understanding, is it just allows them to have their transcripts sent on after they graduate, even if they happen to have a fee due to that institution, and it could be any variety of fees. They need this very desperately because they need to go on to job training programs and try to get a job in the community and try to live their lives the best that they can to their abilities. The reason that we don't need this amendment on this bill is because these particular students that are addressed by this bill are not going to be helped by sending the money following them to a military boarding school. In fact, they would most likely be very, very harmed. Thank you very much.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Madam Speaker, I'll bring it back to the amendment here. I don't know how many of you have read this book, and some of you might not read it, but I actually attended a Chris Papp's seminar, if you will, and he blamed me. He said, you know, this is a function of our body. And I kind of told him, well, you know, I'm fighting for you and what have you. But when you look at what's happening to our children, and Governor Moore says it himself, he says, we will leave no one behind. We've left these kids behind for years. And you know what? We're the victims of that in here because we're constantly being confronted with issues that are affecting the poorest of the poor and the ones that are being harmed the most, and we're negligent on this. This is an opportunity, and I hear the stories all the time that there's a bill that will do this, there's a bill that will do that. Those bills aren't coming in front of us, and they're not addressing this need. I would encourage each and every one of you to read the book. You may not like the author, you may not like Fox 45, but these are facts. These are verifiable facts that you can read where we're leaving the most vulnerable behind, and we're continually doing it. And I don't know how you look your parents in the face when these things are happening in our schools. Thank you.
Okay, the clerk would take the call. There being 93 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means, report number 8, The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 297, Adult Education High School Diploma Pathways GED Option Pilot Program and M Diploma Pathway. Favorable with amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes the GED option pilot program from the bill and requires the Maryland Department of Labor to publish on its website and any publications related to obtaining a GED information about the MD Diploma Works pathway. Move the amendments, please.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 505, Public and Non-Public Schools Student School Transfers Academic Records Documentation. Favorable with amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County, who is the floor leader.
I am. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
The amendment strikes a few items from the statutory list of those that may be used in lieu of an official transcript and clarifies that the standardized test scores that may be used are subject to relevant standardized test scores. Move the amendments, please.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 856, Local School Systems Educator Screening, Educator Identification Clearinghouse, School Personnel Vetting and Hiring Transparency Act. Favorable with amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Madam Speaker, so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
The amendments change the date before which applicants must be screened through the clearinghouse from October 1st of this year to August 1st and strikes a requirement that local school systems must ensure an applicant receives the appropriate license by a specific time, requiring the applicant must timely receive the correct license. I move the committee amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Special order calendar, House Bill 691. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 691, State Government Procedures Permitting Efficiency for Housing Development Projects. Favorable report adopted.
I'm recognizing the minority leader, who's the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
My
I have
pleasure.
an amendment at the desk, 153520/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
This is, I think, a good bill. I think this is a bill that relates to an issue that we all talk a lot about. It's kind of complicated and confusing, but we all think is important, which is housing. People in this room have different ideas about what type of housing we need and where it should go, and I think in general, localities need a lot of control over those issues. Some areas are ripe to place large multifamily housing developments into. Some areas are not ripe for that, for a variety of reasons: school capacity, road capacity, the nature of agricultural land. All sorts of issues come into play in those decisions. But I think we all should agree that Maryland needs more and better and more modern housing. And one of the reasons why our housing is so unaffordable is we have made it unaffordable because businesses and companies that build the houses are trapped sometimes in a regulatory maze, and they spend an awful lot of time and money going through permitting processes and being over-regulated with what they can do and can't do. And businesses, I know we all know this deep down, are in business to make money. Charities are in business to give away money. Businesses that have owners, stockholders, people who are making their living, paying for their families off of the business are in business to make money. And when they say, if I go to Maryland, I'm not going to make as much money, it's going to be more difficult for me to build housing, I'll go to Virginia. I'll go to West Virginia. I'll go to Pennsylvania. I'll go to Delaware. I'll go to North Carolina. I'll go to Ohio. I'll go someplace else because we make it not as cost effective. And so I think this bill from the good delegate from Montgomery County is very well intentioned. But I think that the amendment that I'm about to offer incorporates some of the concerns of the people who build the buildings and the houses where your constituents live. They are not the enemy. The Maryland Building Industry Association, the home builders, they are not the enemy. They are the only people out there who are doing what all of you want. More homes, more houses, affordable houses, better houses for families to live and grow and stay and retire and prosper in the state of Maryland. And what they noted and they suggested in the bill, which they supported, what my amendment does is it basically says the key elements of it is a part of this bill which duplicates an executive order, essentially, from Governor Moore, and it says, hey, the state agencies, MDE, DNR, other agencies, can delegate some of the responsibility to review these permit application requests to local authorities. They can say, look, you're developing something in Montgomery County, Charles County, Allegheny County, whatever it is. We have a state standard, but we're going to let the locals enforce it for us at a local level. What the amendment would do is says, notwithstanding any other provision of law, a local government may not establish requirements for a local permit that are more stringent than state requirements for a permit related to housing construction unless expressly authorized in another area of state law. And a local government that enacts a regulation that imposes a more stringent standard than a state regulation that leads to a reduction in housing supply must explain why. They must submit a justification. They can do it, but there has to be, through the housing ombudsman that was created, a sense of why they do it. Why is that important? Well, the people who build the houses in this state for your constituents indicated with this bill that a lot of counties take the state requirements too far. Projects like the Marriott headquarters or Pike and Rose, both located in or near Bethesda, would not have been possible without a waiver that Montgomery County had to grant, despite both projects exceeding the state suggested redevelopment criteria. Those are important projects for Montgomery County. They're important projects for the state because they generate massive amounts of tax revenue that you use to pay for everything else. There's a variety of other projects that they cited and the application of those projects, wetlands and stream regulation. And they indicate that in some counties, the state says you get to enforce our wetland and stream rules, and the local authorities say, well, even though the state tells us we can grant the project, we're not going to grant the project. And so what the amendment would do, I am unabashedly a pro-business Republican. Our party has different strains in it. We have a lot of populists, which is fine. We have a lot of individuals who are unabashedly pro-business. I am unabashedly pro-business because I believe, with some obvious notable exceptions, that business and the growth is good. Not greed is good, but business and growth and economic development is good. And the amendment is intended based upon the thoughts of people in this industry of how to improve it, of how to add a few sentences to it that would make it better, because I intend to vote for the bill. I think that the bill is a way to shortcut the regulatory morass that people find themselves in, which is why they don't build in Maryland the same way they build in other states. And I hope that the committee will take that into consideration either through the amendment or through its new and important role in overseeing housing policy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader, the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
and
welcome.
thank you to my good friend, the minority leader from Allegheny County. You mentioned a shortcut. I'd like to say we could have shortcut to the vote since you're going to vote for it anyway, I will say. But I appreciate the amendment that you provided to me prior to this session. I will say that although part of this bill does involve the delegation of state authority to to local government related to housing construction and permits, this happens only by the agreement between the state and the locality. So this existing provision, it's in keeping with feedback that localities, local governments, regularly provide on state legislation, which asks for local engagement and collaboration, for collaborative solutions, not state mandates, which I believe this amendment seeks to do. So for that reason, I would ask the body to resist the amendment.
Recognizing the minority
Thank you,
leader.
Madam Speaker. Just in closing, I appreciate the concept of like, well, we want to let locals do things, but when you let locals do things like this, which was cited in the testimony of the bill, we have a Forest Conservation Act. The state law allows local jurisdictions to tailor their local ordinances to accommodate growth. Some counties have made their local ordinances in a way that if there's a single tree that may fit as one of the specimen trees on a 10 or 20 or 30 acre tract that's going to be turned into residential housing, what does it result in? According to the people who do this for a living, it's used as a proxy by project opponents to delay projects, especially as it relates to specimen tree variances, which can be challenged in court, and although rarely successful, typically delays a project by months. Oftentimes, the projects just get canceled. Also, the use of what constitutes a specimen tree varies by county or municipality. Would any of you want to get into this business? Would any of you want to get into the business and be like, hey, I was told that this county needs housing growth, and I want to come in and I want to build 50, 75, 150 nice, decent family houses for people to move to and succeed. And somebody said, well, in the other county, the specimen tree was this, but in this county, the specimen tree is that, so you can't do it because that locality exceeds what the state does. I'm up here as a Republican telling you, like, let's do what the state does. And that's all it comes down to. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the amendment.
Welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand here to support the gentleman's amendment. You know, just prior to session starting, I got a call from a good friend of mine who's a president of a mid-sized builder, does a lot of homes in Prince George's County, Calvert County, and Charles County. And he said to me, I've been waiting months for some help from the state level and the local level on permitting processes to build homes, to build medium-sized homes in areas that need these homes. They need affordable homes. He also builds these homes in North Carolina. 7 weeks it took. In Maryland, it was 7 months. The amendment simply helps limit the red tape, limit the process, and I stand to support this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Give a second for those in the back. Okay. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 members present, the House is still in session. House third reading calendar number 34. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 175, Income Tax Credit Venison Donation Alterations.
House Bill number 175 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 132, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 253, Vehicle Laws, Heavyweight Port Corridor Permits Regulations.
House Bill number 253 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 253, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 399, State Retirement and Pension System, Transfers Between Systems Work Group Extension.
House Bill 399 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, House Bill number 399, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 578, Fish and Wildlife, Endangered and Threatened Species and Migratory Birds, Regulations, Lists, Petitions, Essential Habitats, and Takings.
Thank you. House Bill 578 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative and 31 votes in the negative, House Bill number 578, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 721, Uniformed Services Spouses Act.
Thank you. House Bill number 721 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 721, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 748, Publicly Funded Pre-Kindergarten Early Childhood Educator Career Ladder for Private Providers, New Pathways.
House Bill number 748 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 748, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Yeah, the House third reading, calendar number 37. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 194, Incarcerated Individual Apprenticeship Pilot Program.
House Bill number 194 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 114 votes in the affirmative and 16 votes in the negative, House Bill number 194, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill,
Madam
please.
Speaker, my button didn't work.
All right. You would like to be recorded?
Yes, in the affirmative in the green.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
My button didn't work either, Madam Speaker. I would like to be in the green.
Thank you. Remember to turn in your yellow slips. Recognizing the gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My button didn't work on House Bill 258. I'd like to be recorded in the green, please.
All right, thank you. Any other vote change? All right. The next bill?
House Bill 258, Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Critical Area Protection Program Standards and Procedures.
House Bill number 258 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, House Bill number 258, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. So clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 289, Video Lottery Facility Payouts, Intercepts for Restitution Payments, Child Support Payments, and Debts owed to the state.
House Bill number 289 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 289, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 357, Municipalities, Election Dates, Reporting Requirements.
House Bill number 357 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 357, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 377, Physician Assistants and Midwives, Parity with Other Healthcare Practitioners.
House Bill 377 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 377, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 429, On-Farm Organics Diversion and Recycling Grant Program established.
House Bill number 429 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 429, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading calendar number 38.
Yes,
Any vote change?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Western Maryland.
HB 194 from yea to nay.
Recorded.
Thank
you. Anyone else? The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 428, Courts, Former Judge Temporary Assignment.
House Bill number 428 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative and 29 votes in the negative, House Bill number 428, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 461, Economic Development, Rural Readiness Program, and Rural Maryland Capacity Building Fund Establishment.
House Bill 461 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk would call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, House Bill number 461, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 483, Business Regulation, Charitable Organizations, Audit and Review Thresholds.
Madam Speaker.
Yes. Let me finish going through my script. Okay. Sorry. It's House Bill 483. It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? See, you threw me off there. Go ahead.
I threw myself off. Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader please rise for a couple questions?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What are we doing with this bill?
What's that?
What are we doing with this bill? What does it do?
This is an adjustment for inflation bill. So in 2016, we set the standard of when a nonprofit charitable organization registered with the Secretary of State, meaning they can solicit like, hey, we're doing this good work. Do you want to contribute to us? That's what that registration does. We said if they're 300,000, a budget of 300,000 or above, they've got to get a fiscal review, and if they're 750,000 or above, they have to get an audit. So that was in 2016. So this year we adjusted that for inflation. 750,000 becomes $1 million, and 300,000 becomes 400,000.
So safe to say we loosened the thresholds.
We adjusted for inflation.
And I
So the
appreciate that.
standards that we thought were appropriate in 2016, that were voted on unanimously, actually, in this body in 2016, were adjusted for inflation for 2026.
Would you agree that we have a problem in this state with state funds going to nonprofits that are unaccounted for? I mean, it's been every headline I've read in the interim. I mean, we're talking about millions. We're not talking about $1 million. We're talking about millions of dollars. And I think it's
Sorry,
it's a
I'm having
serious-
trouble. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Can we, one second, one
Would
minute.
you agree that we have a problem in this state with audits and nonprofits?
Any concerns that have been raised, I think you're talking about headlines, are not at all related to this bill. So the state.
There'd be less nonprofits that are Can you give me an example where less oversight has actually been beneficial or effective? It seems to me like we had all these audit problems, and this is the way I see this bill now is, now we're saying, well, let's loosen it up so we have less audits rather than being better stewards of the ratepayers' money. Because look, this is state money, which is taxpayers, going to nonprofits, and now we've come back, and I understand the inflation part, but $1 million, I mean, this is like, to me, it's like my son spending too much money on the credit card, and my answer to that is, well, I just won't look.
Sure. So I appreciate the concern and the idea of being a good steward of taxpayers' money. And let me just differentiate for you the difference between state grants with state money to nonprofits, and there's a whole set of requirements and there's a whole set of standards, and those have a very different threshold of when they need audits, when they need other assurances, when they have site reviews and all of those things. That is separate process from a registration with the Secretary of State, which is related to the ability to request contributions from people in our community. So I understand there's a handful of concerns about some specific nonprofits that you and others of your colleagues have raised. This bill has nothing to do with that because those concerns are related to how the state gives grants and what the requirements ought to be for that. This bill is about a registration with the Secretary of State, and so there have been actually no concerns about audits and like these thresholds. The stuff that is about what this bill is about has not had any headlines.
But they're still getting state money, am I correct on that?
No, not
They're
necessarily.
Not getting any,
So,
not necessarily.
so if you're a nonprofit and you have a total budget of $500,000, this bill says you got to get a financial review. You have to do that whether you have state money or you don't have state money. It's all personal contributions. You got to do that. That's what this bill says. It's all state money. You got to do that. That's what this bill said. But if you have state money, there's a whole bunch of other requirements that we have in the law that also apply to you that are not listed in this bill, because this bill is just the basic threshold of what you have to have if you are a charitable organization, so that you have the permission of the Secretary of State to ask people for donations.
And I appreciate that, but when we're talking about the ratepayers, I mean, we are already in a serious financial problem here in this state. People want to know how their money is being spent. They don't care if they're giving $1 to this state. They don't care if it's going to one that the Secretary of State's going to look at or some other nonprofit. It's the money coming out of their pocket. They don't really care what type of nonprofit. They care, what are you doing with my money? And to me, it seems like we're loosening up oversight of the people's money.
Well, here's the good news. This is about people's ability to ask for contributions. So if you don't trust the nonprofit that's asking you for contributions, you don't have to give them any money. And this bill doesn't change that.
I think that we ought to continue to be better stewards of the ratepayers or the taxpayers' money. And there's no way around this. This is just less oversight. Any way you want to slice it, I appreciate your answers. I'll be a no on this bill.
Okay.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A quick question for the floor leader.
Floor leader.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Are religious institutions exempted from this?
If religious institutions are filed as charitable organizations, then these laws would apply to them.
So this moves the thresholds higher. So if we were under a situation like we saw in the news in, let's say, Minnesota, where there was some scandals of fake daycares being set up and instances like this, it would make it harder to catch, correct? Because the thresholds are higher?
It wouldn't.
It would?
Because I think where people are confused is those folks who want to raise concerns about what happens with taxpayer dollars that are given to nonprofits or that are granted to nonprofits, I think are confused about what this bill does, which has nothing to do with the way the state or the federal government monitors what happens with taxpayer dollars. This is related to how charities have to register with the Secretary of State to solicit donations. And those same charities might also get some state money, but this isn't the way that the state regulates what happens with state money. This is a totally separate system that's related to charitable, requesting charitable contributions.
And I understand that, but I thought it took the threshold higher.
Yeah, well,
so
in
it looks like $1
26
million threshold.
So in 2016, you voted for the thresholds that are in here. So they went from whatever they had been before, they went up to 750 and 300,000. You voted for that in 2016. And so you voting for this today would just be you recognizing that there has been inflation, and now the same vote you took in 2016 is equivalent to the vote that you would have the opportunity to take today.
Okay, well, I appreciate that information. I'll explain why I'm going to vote against it today.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to vote against it. We might have voted for it in 2016, but guess what? The times have changed. And there has been all kinds of reports and news problems with nonprofits not filing their taxes, scamming people, taking tax money. And this, my understanding of this bill, it raises the thresholds up to $1 million. So to me, if you have a nonprofit that's operating under that threshold, well, guess what? It makes it easier to defraud consumers. So I'll be voting red. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate this debate because I hadn't really looked too much at this bill, but could the floor leader just answer a few quick questions?
Sure.
I'm looking at some of the favorable testimony, and it's talking about nothing to do with thresholds. It's talking about allowing charities to remain safe havens. It's talking about keeping charities nonpartisan. Can you tell me how does this testimony dovetail with what the bill actually does?
Well, I can tell you what the bill does. I can't control what people write in their testimony. So I don't
Okay.
know why people chose to write what they wrote in their testimony. I don't have it in front of me right now. I
Yeah.
can't control that. But what I can tell you what the bill does is, right now, the Secretary of State has a process that a charitable organization has to register with if they want to solicit money from people in their community.
Okay.
And right now, along with that registration, if their total revenue is between $300,000 and $750,000, they have to get a financial review. And if their total revenue is above $750,000, they have to get a full audit.
Okay.
And that was said in 2016.
Okay.
There's been inflation since then, and so adjusting these same numbers for inflation, now it's $400,000 is the threshold to trigger a financial review, and $1 million is the threshold to trigger an audit. And I don't know why anyone wrote what they might have written, but I can tell you what the bill does.
Okay.
And that's
all
what
right.
it is.
So that helps a lot, actually, because I was reading some of this and I just thought, did I look at the wrong bill? Okay.
Maybe.
I really appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing no other debate, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 483, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 523, real property, residential foreclosures, commencement restrictions.
House Bill number 523 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 110 votes in the affirmative and 23 votes in the negative, House Bill number 523, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 573, Fair Housing and Housing Discrimination, Regulations, Intent, and Discriminatory Effect.
House Bill number 573 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 573, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 798, Economic Development, Small, Minority, and Women-Owned Businesses, Accounts, Management Fees, Small Business Increased Access to Capital Act.
House Bill number 798 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 124 votes in the affirmative and 9 votes in the negative, House Bill 798, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 951, Real Property, Recordation, and Land Records, Revisions.
House Bill 951 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 951, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading calendar number 39. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 10, Legal Advertisement or Legal Notice Publication in Newspaper or Newspaper in General Circulation, Digital Newspapers.
House Bill 10 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
To explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
1 second. Has everyone recorded their vote? Go ahead.
Thank you so
Recognizing
much.
the lady from Hartford County.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Folks, typically you would hear from me excitement over attempting to make something less expensive for our community. That certainly is a drum I beat often. But in this one particular case, over the last 12 months, my mind has actually been shifted on this policy. It can be done, so don't give up. I really fear that as we shift over to allowing essentially digital only legal notices, that we are going to be cutting out older folks who actually would benefit from maintaining access to in-print legal notices, things like that. I do get concerned, and I have heard concerns from our older folks that still read the newspaper, and I worry that papers like The Sun and The Afro are going to lose these legal notices to online-only editions, and that we will be cutting our elderly folks off from access to this information. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader. Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm here to explain my green vote on this bill. Many of you know that I spent most of my career before I came here in the news business, and that I was in fact president of the News Guild Union. I support this bill because this is the future of the news industry. And if we're going to continue to support local media, we need to support local media on all platforms. The print publications under this bill can still accept and get these legal advertising notices, and I think this is a way forward to make sure that all local media outlets are supported. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 10, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 243, Land Use Comprehensive and General Plans, Alteration of Elements.
House Bill number 243 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 93 votes in the affirmative and 39 votes in the negative, House Bill number 243, having received a constitutional majority,
Madam
is declared
Speaker.
pass. Vote
Over
change.
here, sorry.
Recognizing the
My button
gentleman
didn't
from-
work, and I'd like to be recorded on the green on that last bill, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else for vote change? The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill
Oh,
30.
vote, 1 second. Vote change. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Yes, on HB 194 to nay.
Okay. All right. House Bill, the clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 306, Vehicle Laws, Manufacturers and Dealers, Prices Listed on Dealer Websites, Jack Fitzgerald Price Transparency Act.
House Bill 306 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 306, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 343, Housing Development Projects, Housing Counseling Services.
House Bill number 343 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 343, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 996, Corporations and Associations, Revisions.
House Bill 996 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 996, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1026, Business Regulation, Rounding Cash Transactions, Authorization.
House Bill number 1026 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1026, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1312, Legal Tender Specie Establishment.
House Bill number 1312 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Hartford County.
I just have a quick question for the floor leader.
Floor leader. Thank you.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yes.
We were just curious chatting the other day. How does this work? Can I just walk in to pay my bill with actual gold?
No. So the Office of Financial Regulation, like 11 states, will go ahead and produce regulations that deal with this. If you read the bill, it has to be U.S. government created or foreign government.
Gotcha.
It's 99% gold or silver. So it's just randomly you can't walk in. It's certified.
Okay, but I have gold bars. So if I have gold bars, I can literally walk in and pay my property taxes?
If the establishment or that state government agency agrees to it. They have to
Wow.
provide the regulation towards it. Again, 11 states, West Virginia.
I love it. I mean, I love it. I'm just so tickled. I was just imagining in my head, like, counting it out. You know, it's a little odd,
Understood.
but cool.
Yeah, but there's regulations that relate to this. So.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1312, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote changes? If you can wait till the end of the calendar, I will ask if there are vote changes, okay? It just makes it a little easier. Thank you so much. We have House third reading calendar number 40. Will the clerk please read the bill?
House Bill 437, Transportation Major Highway Capacity Expansion Projects and Impact Assessments, Transportation and Climate Alignment Act of 2026.
House Bill number 437 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
We had a lengthy discussion about this bill. I guess it was yesterday. Every day starts seeming like a year ago, but I think it was yesterday. I get it confused sometimes because we talk about a lot of things, some of which matter, some of which probably don't. This bill reflects, I think, a fundamental differentiation between philosophies, which we heard a little bit about yesterday. And it's a philosophy about when it comes to transportation, what works, what's cost effective, what is the direction people are going. Maryland is predominantly a suburban and exurban state. We only have one incorporated municipality bigger than, I think, 90,000 people in the entire state. And it is the good city of Baltimore, where I received a portion of my education, where I lived, where I worked, where I love the Baltimore Orioles. Not so much the Ravens, but I love the Baltimore Orioles. That's okay. It's okay. I miss my friend from Prince George's County who was the big Washington Commanders fan because, he could support some of that too. But from a transit and transportation standpoint, the vast majority of the state of Maryland is not urbanized. It's not super highly dense, close-in communities like New York City. And so as a result, the value and the costs of mass transit as opposed to roads and systems to connect people, the dynamics change. And there was a study that just came out in February of 2026 based upon federal money and local money that has been expended for mass transit projects and its impact. And some of the statistics, I think, were jarring. The overwhelming majority of transit ridership is in urban areas. It's not shocking. What is shocking is that urban per capita ridership, the percentage of people within that urban area who actually use the mass transit, dropped by 87% from 1920 to 2019 and 90% by 2024. Where is almost half of the transit use that occurs in the United States of America? 46% of all mass transit trips occur in one metropolitan area. Anyone want to guess where it is? It's not in Maryland. It's in New York City. New York City, the original mass transit system where it still works because it's incredibly dense. New York City's urban area is bigger than our entire state. And when you go there, you can figure out why people want and need and pay for and can utilize mass transit that's different trying to connect the disparate areas of Maryland. The fastest growing cities in this country, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Jacksonville, Raleigh, Nashville, do not have the type of fully developed mass transit systems that we do. And we try to pay not for one mass transit system with a state of 6.3 million people, we try to pay at least a portion towards two. We try to maintain a system that is wholly located within our borders for the city of Baltimore, into Baltimore County predominantly, can connect through some transit modalities to Anne Arundel County and others, but predominantly the city of Baltimore and Baltimore County. And having rode the Baltimore Metro many times in my life, I can tell you it's not particularly efficient. It doesn't go everywhere. It doesn't get you from one place to the next in a terribly efficient way. If you have to get to work, if you have to get to the hospital, if you have to go do a lot of things, it's not a very efficient system because it wasn't built out years and years ago when it could have been built out in a cost-effective way to go all the way across Baltimore County and Baltimore City the way WMATA does. And we pay, obviously, a large chunk of money for WMATA, which is only partially within our borders or benefits directly our taxpayers. A lot of these cities that are the fast-growing cities, they don't have these types of systems. They don't have these types of costs. Transit spending in America has increased far faster than inflation. Transit expenditures per passenger mile, rose 397% between 1982 and 2019, 2.5 times the overall rate of inflation. Transit spending per passenger mile has grown 4.5 times faster than automobile costs. Automobile costs. The bill carves out some, I think my friend from Baltimore City called it mega highways. I know you weren't saying MAGA highways, mega highway projects. Carve some of them out, and that's appreciated from those of us who have to rely on those projects to get to work, to live in our communities. But what it still does is reflect this body's continued, sustained, and almost absolute preference for mass transit and mass transit spending over roads and bridges and highways, despite the fact that the vast majority of the people in our state use the roads and bridges and the highways and less of the mass transit. Make it make sense. I know that the intentions are good. I know that the members of this body who wholly support these types of mechanisms in an effort to enhance transit, in an effort to relook at highway projects through an environmental prism or other prisms. I know that their intentions are good, but the statistics bear out this. Legislation like this and attitudes like this are not for the betterment of our citizens in our state. They don't fit here. We're not in Manhattan. We're not in Brooklyn. We're not in the Bronx. We're not in, Long Island. We're not on Staten Island. We're in Maryland. And the policies and the processes that continually favor mass transit come at the expense of what our citizens need the most for us to spend our money on. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
And thank you for that soliloquy on transit, or as I like to call it, transit. And as much as I would love to say that word 100 times, much to the frustration ultimately of my wife, who's tired of hearing me talk about transit, that's actually not what this bill is about. So just so that we are clear, this bill is about the amount of money that we put every year into mega highway capacity expansion projects. The bill allows MDOT, the Department of Transportation, 11 different non-exhaustive ways to net out the emissions associated with those projects, only one of which is transit. Okay? Now, we can talk about philosophies, but I would love to talk about facts, which is that there are dozens and dozens of studies that show from Texas, from Virginia, from all over the country that show when you expand highways, you do not reduce congestion. And one of the most important things we can be doing here is reducing congestion for our constituents. I think that made me 75% of a Freedom Caucus member yesterday by saying we need to be reducing congestion for our constituents. What the studies all over the place unequivocally show is that when you expand the highways, you increase vehicle traffic. And in fact, in less than 5 years, this is particularly prescient for my friends on the lower shore who are very concerned about 50 and leaving people stranded in Ocean City. In less than 5 years, traffic will result in pre-expansion levels. So in less than 5 years from now, you're going to have to come back to this General Assembly and say we need hundreds of millions of dollars for you to expand that highway again, only for us to end up in the same place, except worse, because now we also have to pay for the maintenance of those expanded highway lanes. So that is why the current status quo is not actually helping our constituents. Instead, what would help, and what every single county comes to Annapolis to request, is options for funding for different ways to move people. For example, Wacomico County wants money to upgrade the Upper Ferry and Whitehaven Ferry that makes 200,000 trips every year, transporting people and vehicles. Allegheny County is looking for funding to improve the Great Allegheny Passage. In Garrett County, looking for funding to implement the county's first fixed route transit service. St. Mary's County is looking for funding to improve the Three Notch Trail. Queen Anne's County is looking for funding for connections across Cross Island with the South Island Trail on US 50 and 301. These are from the priority letters of every county coming to this General Assembly seeking more money for these projects around the state. And every county also looks for additional funding for the LOTS program, the locally operated transit systems program, because these are ways to move people and not just cars, and they will ultimately reduce congestion, which is what this bill is about. And that is why I urge my colleagues to vote green on this bill like you did last year.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I must say that, we see a lot of housing bills. right? We're talking about how this impacts the rest of the state. So being an ECM, which is now the new housing committee, we see housing bills about how to build more affordable houses in all the counties, even against, local control, right? So we want to put all these new houses in all the local counties. How do you think these people get to work, right? Yeah, look, I mean, some of us, I realize not everyone here owns a car, and some people can ride a bike to work. But for the rest of us that live in counties that rely on transportation, highway transportation, this is a green poison pill for highway projects, is what this is. That's what it is. And I'm grateful that Route 15 potentially is not included in this. But the net result of this bill is it's once again going to make it almost impossible to expand important highway projects around the state. And look, the truth of the matter is 17, 18 jurisdictions in this state are rural jurisdictions. These people rely on the highway to get to work, right? Not everyone lives in Baltimore. Look, I got my law degree in Baltimore. I lived in Baltimore. I don't live there now. I live in Frederick. And people in Frederick and other places around the state get on the highway to go to work. So the idea that we're going to spread all these houses all over the place but not expand or improve our highway systems is ridiculous. I got to be honest with you. We should be having a balance. And again, this is not anything against mass transit, but this is a poison pill for highway projects. That's what it is. And we always see them. We saw it when they were trying to expand 70 down to the bridge. And so look, I'm saying it because the majority of folks in this state, maybe not by population, but the fact that 17 or 18 jurisdictions in Maryland are rural jurisdictions that rely on highways, I think we should be more considerate of these people's lives. They rely on transportation on the highways. And so the idea that we're going to keep putting these obstacles on highway projects, I don't think that's in the best interest of most people. So for those reasons, I'll be voting against this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 93 votes in the affirmative and 39 votes in the negative, House Bill number 437, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Is there any vote change? Okay. House third reading calendar number 41. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 850, Home Builders Open House Sales Representative Disclosure Requirements.
House Bill 850 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 850, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Introduction of House Bill during the last 35 days of session. I'm recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel County. Why is the bill late?
Let's be honest. If it were up to the Maryland State Senate to merely throw themselves on the ground, I believe they'd miss. So, of course, I'm blaming my senator. Thank you.
Okay. Shall the bill be introduced? It requires 94 votes. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative, the bill will be introduced. The clerk will read, is there another one?
I didn't read it. House Bill 1645, Delegate Howard, referred to rules.
Okay. All right, I'm recognizing the bill sponsor, who is from Prince George's County. And welcome back.
Madam Speaker, I'm doing this at the request of a dear constituent who had a hard time corralling some of the stakeholders. So that is why it is late. Thank you for your grace, body.
You're welcome. So shall the House joint resolution be introduced. It requires 94 votes. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative, the House Joint Resolution will be introduced. The clerk will read the House Joint Resolution and the committee assignment.
House Joint Resolution 10, Delegate J. Long, referred to rules.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
I hit the wrong button. I wanted to make sure I was in the green for that previous. Thank you.
You're welcome. Make sure that you turn in your yellow slips, please.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the
Thank you.
gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote on the last one to be registered in the green. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So introduction. Oh, one more. Baltimore County.
Hello.
How are you?
I like to be, I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. My fingers hurt.
It happens. So slippery fingers. Anyone else? All right. Introduction of bond initiatives after the 55th day. Recognizing the sponsor from Prince George's.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
I would like to blame not anybody in a different chamber, but a colleague in this chamber that I did this at the request of that sits in front of me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Shall the bond initiative be introduced? It requires 95 votes. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, the bond initiative will be introduced. The clerk will read the bond initiative and the committee assignment.
Introductory House Bond Initiatives number 66, March 12th, 2026, referred to appropriations.
All right. Introduction of bond initiative after the 55th day, recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Well, since I'm up again, body, I had surgery last week, so forgive me. So this is why some of these things are late. So thank you again for your grace. I appreciate you.
And we're glad you're doing well and that you're back. Shall the bond initiative be introduced? It requires 94 votes. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, the bond initiative will be introduced. The clerk will read the bond initiative and the committee assignment.
Introductory House Bond Initiatives number 67, March 12th, 2026, referred to appropriations.
All right. Vote change?
Yes.
Go ahead, recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 578, recorded in green.
Recognizing the other gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 578 to green.
Anyone else for vote change? Seeing none. Senate third reading calendar number 3. No? Oh, sorry. Current call?
Madam Speaker.
It's okay. The clerk will call the roll. There being 130 members present, the House is still in session. So now we're going to Senate third reading calendar number 3. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 338, State Retirement and Pension System, Transfers Between Systems Work Group Extension.
Senate Bill 338 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 338, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 724, State Retirement and Pension System, Cost of Living Adjustments, Clarification.
Senate Bill 724 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Any amendments? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 724, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like
You're
to change
welcome.
my vote on House Bill 578 to yes.
Thank you. Any other vote change? Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you. Senate Bill 338 to no, please.
Anyone else? All right. That ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements, appropriations.
I'm sorry, Madam Speaker. The full committee will not meet, but listen for subcommittee announcements.
Thank you. Economic matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Economic matters will continue bill hearings at 1:30. 1:30.
Environment and transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will meet for bill hearings at 1, followed at some point by a voting session.
Government, labor, and elections.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. GLEE will meet at 1 p.m. for bill hearings.
Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health Committee will meet at 1 p.m. for bill hearings, followed by a voting session. Please listen for subcommittee announcements.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Judiciary Leadership will be meeting at 12:30, bill hearings at 1:30, vote session following.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will meet at 1 p.m. for bill hearings and will vote immediately after.
Subcommittee announcements. Recognizing the lady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Education and Economic Development Subcommittee of Appropriations will be meeting at 1:30 in room 120. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The K-12 Education Subcommittee of Ways and Means will convene at 12:30 online.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City. In front.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Estates and Trust Subcommittee will meet 10 minutes after we leave the floor.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Labor Subcommittee of Government, Labor, and Elections will meet at 12:20 on Zoom.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Elder Care and Long-Term Care Subcommittee of the Health Committee will be meeting 20 minutes after the floor. Look for your text messages.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City, then Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Subcommittee on Motor Vehicles and Transportation of Environment and Transportation will meet as usual at 3:30 p.m. unless the time changes, so stay tuned.
About Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
The Corrections Subcommittee of the Government, Labor, and Elections Committee will meet at 3:30 or after bill hearings today. Thank you. Virtually.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Public Safety and Administration Subcommittee will be meeting after floor in the Red Room. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Howard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health Facilities Subcommittee of the Health Committee will be meeting 20 minutes after we wrap up here.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Revenue Subcommittee will be meeting at 12:15 virtually.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Non-Energy Utilities Subcommittee of the Environment and Transportation Committee will be meeting immediately following the subcommittee meeting of Motor Vehicles and Transportation. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Colleagues, House Appropriations Subcommittee on Health and Social Services will be meeting at 2:30 for a voting session in the full committee room. Thank you.
Wonderful. Recognizing the gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Local Revenue Subcommittee for Ways and Means will be meeting via Zoom at 12 noon or 10 minutes after floor, whichever comes last. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Via Zoom.
You're welcome. Any other subcommittee announcements?
Madam
Seeing-
Speaker.
Yes.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. Vote change, please. Sorry.
It's okay.
SB 338 to nay.
Remember to turn in your yellow slips. Any other subcommittee announcements? Seeing none, delegation announcements. Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Anne Arundel County's delegation will meet at 8:30 on Zoom tomorrow morning. Please arrive on time. We do have several bills that need to be heard. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Montgomery County House delegation will meet at 9:30. Did my colleagues hear? That's a difference from our normal time. 9:30 tomorrow, virtually.
Now, Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Baltimore City House delegation will meet tomorrow, Friday, at 9 a.m. for bill hearings. Thank you.
Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prince George's County delegation will meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning via Zoom. Same time as usual.
Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Eastern Shore delegation will be meeting at 9 a.m. Via Zoom tomorrow.
Baltimore County.
Thank you. The Baltimore County House delegation will meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Any other delegation announcements? Caucus announcements. Recognizing the Jewish Caucus Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just one last reminder that tonight at 6 o'clock, we will be having a really lovely event in the Rotunda to unveil a new plaque honoring Thomas Kennedy and the 200th anniversary of the Jew Bill. And thanks again to Madam Speaker and the State House Trust for the incredible work that they've been doing to make this possible.
You're welcome. Any other caucus announcements? Recognizing the Chair of the Muslim Caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, permission to say delegate's name.
Permission granted.
On behalf of Delegate Young, Delegate Warlick, and myself, I want to thank everybody who came out yesterday to the iftar dinner. It was tremendous, and also want to say thank you to Delegate Dana Jones for giving us the idea, as well as having the Women's Caucus participating, because the Women's Caucus showed out. They came. Unfortunately, myself and a lot of my judiciary colleagues were late to the event, but a lot of people stuck around. But I really appreciate the outcome and the welcoming as far as that everybody placed upon us. Thank you.
Any other caucus announcements? All right, seeing none. Personal or guest announcements. Recognizing the Vice Chair of the E&T Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
After the gauntlet was thrown down yesterday by the Vice Chair of Appropriations, the Vice Chair of the Environment and Transportation Committee will be providing lunch in the committee room right after floor today.
All right. Recognizing the Chair of the Health Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, please welcome the American Massage Therapy Association to Annapolis today. They are offering bagels, coffee, and chair massages in room 170 of the House Office Building until 1 p.m. today.
Recognizing the Chair of the Irish Caucus, the Vice Chair of Government, Labor, and Elections.
Keep the list going. First of all, karaoke, yes. Second of all, more importantly, please welcome my wife, Helen, who's joining us on the floor this morning.
Welcome, Helen. Recognizing the Vice Chair of the Economic Matters Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Economic Matters Committee wants to make sure that everyone is aware that in Economic Matters, the Vice Chair bakes vegan baked goods every Tuesday for the entire committee.
And I do remember that I used to get some of those cookies. I have not received them yet. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, we have two wonderful educators from Baltimore County in the gallery. Richard Belding from Lock Haven High School, George Finney, Perry Hall Middle School. Let's welcome them. They're in the gallery. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Speaker.
You're welcome.
Will the body help me welcome two cheerleaders here from Frederick Douglass High School in the great 40th District. Now let's try it. Topanga Lawrence and Kelly Kopowski. Where are you? Are you here? All right. Thank you.
Recognizing the very patient delegate from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know if the kids are still here, but I want to recognize some homeschoolers from Seven Gables School in St. Mary's County. They were around here earlier. Hopefully they're still around. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate, also very patient, from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, at first, permission to
Let's
use
listen.
Permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Colleagues, today, Delegate Tolles and I had the pleasure to host the largest AARP chapter in Maryland, AARP Suitland Chapter 939, led by their president, Catherine Williamson. Joining them for this morning's Advocacy Day were members of the Prince George's County's Advisory Committee on Aging, Maryland's Secretary of Aging, Carmel Roque, AARP Maryland's new Advocacy Director, Sarah Restrick, and our partner, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. Please help me welcome the members of AARP, Chapter 939. They were in the gallery. I believe they had to leave to catch their bus, but please give them a hand, and thank you to all of the delegates and senators who were able to stop by today.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The moment has kind of moved on, but I feel like we would be remiss if we did not commend the chair of the Health Committee for buying our committee dinner yesterday. It was healthy, on brand, and it was delicious. Thank you.
Wonderful. Recognizing the delegate from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before I
You're
introduce my guest, I'd like to explain very quickly why she's here. Heart for Animals, which is a nonprofit no-kill shelter at Deep Creek Lake in Garrett County, conducted a fundraiser last fall where they auctioned off a number of different things. One of the things they auctioned off was a day in Annapolis with the Garrett County delegation. We have in the gallery this morning Lisa Hauk, who submitted the winning bid. I'd like you to help me join in thanking Lisa for her generous contribution to a noble cause and welcome her to the House of Delegates. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing. You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, today is National Working Moms Day. So I just want to take a moment to honor one of the most extraordinary, but also one of the most underappreciated forces in our state, the working mom. She wakes up before the sun, she packs lunches, she checks homework, she answers emails, she makes it to the meetings, and she ultimately tucks the kids in at night. Somehow she manages to get it all done. Maryland's workforce does not function without her. Our hospitals, our schools, our businesses are powered every single day by working moms who are simultaneously raising the next generation of Marylanders. So if every working mom in this chamber could please stand. If you are either a working mom or once been a working mom, could you please stand?
Michelle Furman. Up here, Michelle.
And to every working mom in this body and across the state, we want you to know that we see you, we are grateful for you, and we are fighting every day to make sure Maryland is a state that deserves all that you give. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very beautiful. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Not to be outdone, I want to thank our working grandma from the Health Committee, the gentle lady from Baltimore County, for always baking for us with her grandkids and providing that for our committee. Thank you.
And I am the beneficiary of a lot of it, and it's very delicious. Thank you. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Permission to use delegates' names?
Permission granted.
Thank you. On behalf of Delegate Kent Roberson, Delegate Denise Roberts, and myself, we are so honored to have here a national blue ribbon school, which is located in our district, Bishop McNamara High School, class of 2026. Is in the gallery, and they're the Global Studies class. They are here studying. Please stand. And Madam Speaker, if I could add, they were here to have a lesson in government and politics. And so, colleagues, I want to thank you for that robust discussion this morning that kicked off. They learned a lot about what we do here in Annapolis. And so congratulations, class of 2026. And they're accompanied by Ms. Gatling and Mr. Missler. Thank you for taking the time to be here, students. And congratulations on your graduation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Any other personal guest announcement? I want to take a minute to thank the Irish Caucus for your recognition yesterday. That was really beautiful, very thoughtful. If I were to ever contemplate changing my name, my last name, I would change it to O. Pena Melnick. Because Irish people are beautiful, warm, family-oriented, love the music. Thank you so much for the honor and for your generosity. Thank you. Clarence Cole.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Anyone in the back? All right. The clerk will take the call. There being 131 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Friday the 13th at 11 a.m. Legislative date March 1.
Have a blessed day, everyone. Thank you for your hard work.